As you can see, today we are working on the Mitsubishi Challenger again, and I'm lying on the floor because I want to bash my head in. No, it's also because it's the Challenger project and everything's a challenge with it. So we're going to be changing the transmission fluid today, and so I'll just show you here. First thing you're going to want to do is remove this big black plate. You can either, this is covering, it looks like the center diff. It's going to have two 12 mils right here. And then you're going to have two 17 mils, one here and one here. I left one in so that way I can just move the plate out of the way and off this cross member. Next thing you're going to want to do is you'll see this cross member here, and you're going to want to do 17 here, and there'll be a 17 here and a 17 here. You'll remove all these and then do the same on the other side. And then the other thing you'll want to do is, of course, brace your transmission. As you can see by Ryan's face, it's a friggin' Challenger. We're trying to remove, there's two bolts on the top of this member, which we'll show you afterwards. They are 14 mils, and they're in there good. As you can see, he's using a breaker bar.
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to the Challenger project if you haven't seen any other video. Everything's a challenge on this vehicle. So, as you can see, after you remove these two 12 mils and the two 17s, you should be able to rotate this right out of the way. Actually, sorry, these are 14s. You'll remove these two 14s, these two 12s, and then right here will be 17s on the actual cross member. But before you do that, just brace the transmission, and once I'm on that side, I can show you a better how we've braced it. You can see it right there. Just find a good flat-ish spot. You don't need a really flat spot just to brace it, because that is the transmission mount right here. So stay tuned for the next part, and I'll show you once we get the brace down. Alright guys, so as you can see, we have the bolts out of here, or well, that's the bolt right here. This is the whole transmission mount, and we're going to need this out so that way we can get this out of the way. And then there, if I get this light in here, see how there's two more bolts? Those two now need to come out, the two that are right here, and that's so we can access this one and the one on the other side properly, because this is the pan. Now, as you can see, I've already loosened off all the bolts around here. These are some quick tenors just to get this pan all undone, but I noticed that this one isn't going to come out. Now, of course, the transmission won't drain properly until you get this all out. So we're just going to do this because we want to do the transmission filter as well. So stay tuned as we get these two out here. These look like they're, once again, these look like they're 17s. So 17 on this side, 17 on that side. This bracket will be out of the way so you can access the last two bolts right here to make it a whole lot easier. Alright, so if you haven't already, it's time to put a big pot underneath here under your transmission and undo that bolt. That bolt is right here, and this bolt, it was a 12, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So we loosened it out, and all your fluid's going to piss out, so give it a while. After it all leaks out, it's time to undo all these 10s all the way around, and there's 3 under the member. That's why we had to remove it, and now it's going to make it easier. As you can see, the old transmission filter, or the pan gasket, is made of gasket maker. We are going to be removing that because gasket maker is one of those things where it's just crazy when it comes to servicing your transmission filter. So we're going to once I get that off, I'll show you the best way to get rid of it. Usually what I do is a very, like almost a putty knife or a flat blade screwdriver, and slowly work it around. Remember, don't go crazy with it. Don't hammer it in. The reason why is you don't want to gouge the plate and get a leak afterwards. So I'll show you after I'm done. For you, after you've done all this, loosen off all those darn bolts. Alright guys, so from the other side, what we did, which is we started in from over here, we wedged in a putty knife, slowly tapped it with a rubber mallet, and it separated the pink. Then we tapped it a little bit this way, tapped it that way, separated the pink. Once we had enough, we took the flat blade, and we didn't hammer it at all. We pushed it in, got it in here, and as we put it in, it separated, and then we slowly separated And then as you can see over there is the pan. Now you see that tube that goes up? You'll see our dipstick is still hanging here because we should have probably pulled that out first of all, but whatever. All you do is you pull down on that and it'll actually bring the tube down because that tube just goes all the way to the top. That's your dipstick for checking your tranny fluid level. So we just separated it, pulled her down. Once it hit the ground, we moved it out of the way. As you can see, we have the filter right here. To change the filter on this, see these small little bolts here? I haven't seen what size they are. They probably look like an 8 mil to me right now. But yeah, I'll tell you afterwards. You're going to loosen them. You're going to loosen out all these bolts. And then this whole front end of the transmission filter comes off. If you're confused on what it looks like, this is it right here. Doesn't really show you much because I don't have much light. But yeah, as you can see, that's the new transmission filter. If you want to, when you look at it, you'll see the bolts you have to loosen off. So just go off the bolts off the front of it, and then you're just going to loosen it and put the new one back on. And then you should have a new gasket that comes with your transmission kit, your transmission pan, and you're going to put that new gasket on. So this is your tranny filter gasket. So you're going to put that on when you put the new tranny filter on, which is that metal piece that I showed you. And right here is the new pan gasket. So again, make sure you clean off all that pink stuff with a putty scraper. Putty scrapers are a great thing to have. If you don't have one, go to Home Depot and pick one up, I'm telling you. So scrape it all off, get all that pink off that in the pan so it's nice and shiny, and then that's how you're going to seal it. So I'm going to quickly change out this filter on the transmission. Alright, so as you can see, all the pink stuff is pretty much scraped off. The little bit of residue that you see there in the front of the screws, that's actually in the threads of the screw, and that's alright. It acts like a Loctite, so it's not a bad thing. So we'll leave that there, but it's just making sure your surfaces are nice and shiny like this, and you want to make sure your pan surfaces are just as shiny, so when we put on our new gasket, it seals 100%. Okay, so from here, as you can see, I have the transmission filter off. I'm going to start bolting that back on, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, as you can see here, we've got the filter, and I've put it on. Now when I'm tightening up something like this, I like to do the 2 center bolts, and then I'll do a star pattern all the way out. So I'll go from center to outside, but it'll be center, center, then I'll go to that bolt, then I'll go to that bolt, and then I'll shoot over to that bolt, and then over to here, and then I'll shoot over to the farthest bolt, and then 1 bolt over here, over, and then just seal up all the rest of them. Basically, I like to work from the inside out, just so that way it gets, it makes sure that you don't have any, it kind of tightens up the gasket along. Other people like to start from the outside in, others from the inside out. Just keep, basically what you're trying to avoid is don't try to seal one corner up first. You want to make sure you're equaling the pressure out on all of them. Now, what I always do, especially because these are not a high torque bolt, is all you do is put your ratchet on, 1 finger on the ratchet top like this, and then you use your thumb. And you just use your thumb to cinch these up. Like thumb tight on the little ratchet. Don't crank on these, you'll strip them, and that's a bad thing. So just tighten them up like that, and get them, you just use your mind, you know, just tighten them up to the point where they're not going to go really anymore with just your thumb, and don't crank on it with your thumb. Like don't lean into your thumb or something stupid, and you'll be fine. And then after that, after you get this all switched out and you've got both these cleaned up, time to line up your other gasket. Now what you should do is, before you tighten those down, I should have said this with this transmission filter, because you're going to use the same tactic for here. Loosely screw on with your finger the corner, put it through the pan and then through the gasket, and then over there with the filter, same thing. Put it through the pan and then put it through the gasket, and do that with your corners. And then after that, put all your screws in very loose and make sure that it's properly seated through the gasket, and then cinch it down from the middle and work your way out. Do the same here. Just make sure both surfaces are clean, then put your new gasket in. And don't, you know what, it's alright to have a little bit of liquid on here. If a little bit of liquid gets on the gasket, it'll help it separate. again, so or expand, as I should say. You don't have to have a completely dry surface. It's always nice if you do, but yeah. Anyways, go from there and just get that all bolted back up. And then from this point, just bolt your cross member and your transmission mount all back up. I'll let you know if I have any, kind of tricks on doing that as I go, but other than that, it's pretty much watch this video in reverse for that part. And then I'll show you, or we'll talk as soon as I start putting fluid back in the transmission. Quick little thing for you. That's cleaner than new. See how you have the edge? That's what you want to make sure is clean. That seep line or whatever they want to call it. So this is what's going to compress your gasket in the end. This edge isn't that much, but this will. So when you put your new gasket, this is what you want, sparkle and shine. And as you can see, this thing is clean. So as you can see, we cleaned ours with a wire brush and a drill. That's one way you can do it, but again, you can do it too. Just decide which way you want to go about it. Just make sure you don't groove it. That's the best way to put it. Okay? Alright guys, so the next part is after you've tightened up your pan bolts down below, again, just using that star pattern and just slowly wedging them around. Make sure that after you think you've got them all tight, you go down around them one more time and you just make sure they're one hand tight. Now what I mean by that is you grab the wrench like this and you do that. No more than one hand. Don't be ripping on it. Don't Hulk Hogan them. You'll see that they have crush washers, and you'll see that the spring washer, and you'll see the spring close, and that's it. That's gonna, as soon as it's closed and you've got a nice tight on there, you're good. And just make sure you don't cross thread. That's basically it. So at this point now, we're gonna have to add ourselves some fluid. We've got some Boss ATF here, which was recommended to us, so we're using this. And I guess it's what you would use in this one in Delikas and stuff. But just make sure that you've got the one for your vehicle. You can always check at your local auto parts store and get the one that's meant for like Mitsubishis and stuff like that. And make sure it's pre-2000 if you're using it on a 96 Challenger. Okay, so from this point, what you can do is you can either grab some milk jugs and pour this fluid in and measure how much fluid came out, and then make sure you add a bit because there's always spillage. It doesn't matter what. So just add that, or what you do is you take a rough estimate if you have a measure on your oil pan, and if it says that, then make sure you add a little bit more and than that. And then what you do is you just go. Make sure you'd rather be under than over right now. Once you figure out how much you're under, then you add to that. So basically what you want to do is look up the amount for this. We were told between 2.8 and 4 liters is how much you're going to drop out through the bottom. We'll probably put 3 liters in, drive around, and as the fluid warms up, we'll see where it should be at, and then we'll add accordingly. Make sure you're under, not over the amount that you want, because if you're under it, then you need to add a little, and it's always better to have a little bit less fluid in the case than more. So all we're going to do now is make sure you have a transmission filter, or not filter, but funnel. As you can see, it's meant to go in the transmission dipstick, just like so. And then from there, you're just going to pour your fluid in. Okay. Alright guys, so as you can see, I've just pulled the filter out. It's sitting there. We've driven around the block. We've let it heat up. How you, of course, get your transmission to start cycling is just heating it up. So driving around the block and doing lots and lots and lots of shifting. So if you have an auto, you just want to go hit up a bunch of stoplights so it downshifts, upshifts, downshifts, upshifts, and then after you've done that, then keep checking and monitoring it for the next week. That's the best way I say to do it. But what you can do is just drive it around, and then at the end of the day, take a look at it, see the levels, or not the end of the day, but after the end of a drive, just check. Look at the levels, top it up as need be, and just go leave it from there. But that's basically it. It's a pretty easy procedure for this vehicle. I guess it is time consuming. The only thing I can really tell you is a little bit of annoying was putting that rear cross member back on the bottom for the transmission, just because the member also holds the transmission mount. So what you're going to want to do is you tie in one side, and then on the other you take a 2x4 like that, and then you put it underneath the cross member, pull up on it, and then you can put the last 4 bolts in on the cross member. Okay, well, I hope this video helped you out. If it did, press the like button. Of course, subscribe for more videos. See you later. Peace out.